Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Logan Holmes Show, only on Radio Care. This week I will be covering the 1982 John Carpenter film, The Thing. But first I wanted to start off by saying I'm going to try something a little different this week, folks. If you've tuned in to my previous shows, and thank you very much for doing so, I should let you know I am a student, and I'm doing this as part of an internship. The nice folks at Radio KR were nice enough to allow me to be an intern and to create radio shows as part of it, where I would be able to do shows on movies that I like, kind of fill you in on what's going on. Now, behind the scenes stories, that sort of stuff. Now, usually I type up a big long script and I read word for word, and I use it as kind of my safety net. But because this is a educational environment for me, I thought I would try something different, and this week I am getting rid of the safety net. While I do have a few pages of just brief notes, I'm trying my best, as my public speaking teacher would say, to speak extemporaneously. Hopefully you enjoy it. I know that a bit of a criticism I've had in past episodes is that it sounds like I'm reading, and guess what? It is. It's because I am reading. But I will try this out, and hopefully it works. Hopefully you guys like it. If it doesn't, I guess I can always go back to the old way. But at the end of the show, I will give you an email address that you can let me know either way, thumbs up, thumbs down. As I was saying, this is the getting to know your DJ part of the show. I am a communications major at a university in the great state of Texas, and I'm close to graduating, and because of that, I am required to take an internship. And as I said previously, I looked all over for, things that would kind of lend into, what I want to do as a career and give me a creative outlet. And again, the nice folks at Radio KR were, kind enough to give me a job and let me do what I do. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys listening. And I wanted to let you know that why I do my show on movies. And particularly this week, I'm covering the horror movie, John Carpenter's The Thing. I have a soft spot for this movie because I've always loved movies. I love anything that conveys a story, that tells a story, whether it be movies, TV, comic books, video games, whatever. Whatever is a medium for storytelling. I've always loved that. And I've always loved movies in particular. And I have always loved The Thing because I have a special connection to it. When I was about 14 years old, my parents divorced at a very early age. And when I was about 14, I went to live with my father. And I didn't really know my father very well at this age. We talked to each other on the phone. I visited maybe once, twice a year. Didn't really know him. So I moved in with him when I was about 14. And my father, doing the things that good fathers do, he tried to find a way to connect with me. And the way he found to connect with me is he had a very extensive movie collection. And he learned that I liked movies. So one day, we're getting ready for dinner, and I will never forget this. He's like, "Oh, you like movies?" I'm like, "Yeah, I love movies." He's like, "Oh, let me show you this movie." And it was John Carpenter's The Thing. And again, this was at dinner time. We were watching this movie. If any of you have ever seen the movie, you will know that it can be a rough movie, especially in a lot of different parts, much less when you're trying to eat. And I will never forget the scene where there is a CPR scene. And there's a scene where a bunch of tentacles start shooting out of an alien. And at that exact moment, my father puts in front of me a giant plate of spaghetti. And he hands me a fork and goes, "Dig in." Yeah, if you can only imagine the expression on my face. So, yeah. But don't think I ate very much dinner that night, but I was glued to the screen as far as the movie. I've tell you a little bit about the movie. It was directed by John Carpenter, and I am a big fan of John Carpenter's. I love a lot of his movies. Some of the movies I don't care for, but for the most part, he's one of my favorite directors. I love, probably my favorite movie of his of all time is a movie called Big Trouble in Little China. It's just an absolutely bizarre, crazy film that if you've never seen, I encourage you to just watch it because it's nuts. But he's made a lot of movies. He's made a lot of movies with the star of The Thing, Kurt Russell. He's done, of course, the Escape from New York and the not quite as good but still very watchable Escape from LA. He's done The Thing, and I'm probably drawing a blank as to other movies that I think there was one more I'm honestly trying to remember. But he's done a series of really amazing movies. Of course, he did the Halloween movies, which I've always enjoyed. They're not my favorite. For some horror fans, they're kind of the end-all, be-all, and I appreciate them for the quality. I appreciate for what they are and the fact that so many later movies would borrow elements from it. But I guess I've never really found the lead character to be all that interesting. I'm much more of a Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees kind of guy. And I would absolutely love to do an episode where I just break down the different movies and talk about that. But let's see how this goes first. Anyway, the plot of The Thing, as I mentioned, it came out on June 25th, 1982. And it takes place in a remote Antarctica research station, an American research station, and where the scientists one day are, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The film opens with a dog, a Malamute running across the snow, and you quickly see that the dog is being shot at by a helicopter. We learn that the people shooting at the helicopter are from a Norwegian research base. And we quickly, the dog makes it to the American research scientist outpost, and the Norwegian helicopter lands, and basically everything goes really badly really quickly. The first interesting fact about this is that if you speak Norwegian, the entire basic plot of the movie is given away in the first few minutes of the movie. Yeah, one of the Norwegian, I believe it's a Norwegian pilot, or maybe the guy who was shooting, he says something to the effect of, get away, that's not a dog, that's some kind of thing. So there, if you speak Norwegian, the whole premise of the movie is kind of blown away from, is kind of ruined for you. That was quite the gamble, I would say, that Carpenter took, but anyway, it's interesting. So anyway, the American scientists, they bring the dog, unfortunately the Norwegian scientists kind of blow themselves up, so they bring the American scientists bring the dog into their base, not knowing what it is, and the dog is not actually a dog. As you can imagine, the title character of the movie, it is a thing. And it slowly starts to attack and, I wouldn't say assimilate, but it basically kills off and then assumes the form of the various members of the base. And plays into a lot of kind of, remember that this movie came out in the 80s during the Cold War. So it kind of fed into that whole paranoia, who's the enemy kind of mentality. And in some ways, it's very indicative of the time period that it was released in. So if you're ever kind of wanting to know what the early 80s were like, the vibe, this is an interesting little time capsule for that. Anyway, what was interesting about the movie is that John Carpenter, surprisingly enough, was not the original intended director. It was Tobe Hooper. Apparently, the Universal, who released the movie, had him under contract. And he even wrote a couple drafts for the movie, but the studio was not happy with the drafts, so they hired John Carpenter, especially because they were very happy with